You know what your real problem is, Chloe. People like you should know their place, away from men like him. Coach Lennon's voice lashed the mahogany-paneled silence, each syllable sharper than the snap of latex gloves at the mortuary. Chloe hadn't seen him since her last failed attempt at his boot camp class. Now here he was in the boss's office, smirking as if he still held a whistle. His hand shot out, knocking the file folder from her arms. It exploded across the polished floor, photos, ledgers, the debit sheet from today's burial account, fluttering down like so many exposed secrets. She stooped, heart battering against the weight of her own chest as she swept the papers together, heat burning up her heavyweight frame while a dozen eyes watched. On the far side of the room, the syndicate's kingpin leaned back behind his desk, the dark slash of his eyebrows unmoving. His silhouette carved a thread in the lamplight, the thick platinum band on his hand tapped rhythmically like a countdown. Chloe gathered the last slip, exhaling through her lips so quietly only she heard the tremor. She didn't dare look at the dawn. The breath in the room seemed tailored for men in suits. But the door swung open with a low cough of hinges, and the world changed with the hush of footsteps approaching behind her. The man whose name made half of Chicago cross the street met her gaze as she rose. Don Luca Caruso. The name was carved in oak on the door, but it was the subtle reminder in the steady set of his broad shoulders that truly mattered. He regarded her in a way that made the air shrink, not with disdain, but curiosity sharpened by years of calculation. "I'm sorry, sir," Chloe said, voice thin as she clutched the cursed folder tight. It felt both shield and evidence, heavy in her hands, heavier still in her heart. She tried not to hunch, to diminish, but old instincts coiled deep. Lennon snorted, scraping a chair as he slid into it, still apologizing for everything, huh? Caruso's eyes never left Chloe. His voice, when it came, was velvet wound around iron. "Miss Wagner, is it?" She startled. "Yes, I'm so sorry for the mess." A pause that bit the marrow out of her apology. One thick finger drummed on the desk. "Numbers matter to me, Miss Wagner. Mistakes matter more." But his gaze flickered, not to her paperwork, but to the practiced way she separated the pages, order manifest even in chaos. He picked up a crisp, folded napkin from a tray and handed it across. "Some things are worth a second look, even the ones people step over." She accepted the napkin, still warm from his palm, and tried to smile. It trembled on her lips but held. He waited until she met his gaze, then murmured, "People who work late have stories to tell. Maybe you'll tell me yours one day." Coach Lennon, watching, sneered, "I'd save the interest for people who can actually keep up." For a heartbeat, Caruso's eyes flashed, a cold, possessive gleam. "Mine," the look seemed to say. The napkin in Chloe's hand felt like both a promise and a shield. "Nobody talks for me, Lennon," Caruso said quietly, "especially not about her." The rest of the room stilled, caught between paper and power, as Chloe tried to steady her breathing and tucked a stray paper into her folder, her thumbnail pressing a neat line. Later, the silence of the corridor outside the office was shattered by laughter. Coach Lennon, surrounded by 3 gym rats from his private training club, all sharp-cut jawlines and tailored sneers. Chloe stepped from the glass elevator, bracing to fade into anonymity. But the click of her shoes against the marble betrayed her. Lennon's group rounded on her. "You still working here? After that disaster at the gym, I figured you'd gone back to hiding. Chloe the Whale," Lennon said, relishing the echo of his nickname. Chloe's cheeks burned, the humiliation curling up her spine. The elevator doors slid open behind her, revealing Don Caruso stepping out, his tie loosened but his presence all authority. Lennon thrust his phone forward, old photos from the boot camp flicked past, some snapped illegally and now held up for the boys to gawk at. "Look at this, a heavyweight record, all right, still the slowest, sweatiest recruit I ever had." The young men hooted. One pantomimed a jog, nearly colliding into Chloe's shoulder. Careful, she might sink the whole gym this time. Chloe drew a slow, shuddering breath. The urge to collapse was overwhelming, but she forced herself to stand still, eyes locked on the floor. "Enough!" Caruso's voice made the walls halt. The gym boys stilled beneath that singular command. Lennon only grinned wider. "Big talk. You don't know what a charity case this one was, Dawn, always thinking she could run with the strong when all she did was drag us down. Chloe looked up, her hands clenched tight, her mind scrambling for even ground. I'm not here for the gym, coach. My work matters to the family. A tremor in her voice, but the words came out level, not sorry. Lennon rolled his eyes. Sure it does. Counting caskets now, Chloe, seems fitting. Caruso stepped between them, eyes flinty. You forget, Lennon, around here loyalty means more than muscle. A cold snicker. Then she'll fit in. She's got enough padding for the whole payroll. Phones vibrated. The gym boys' attention shifted, a flurry of whispered texts, worry flickering across their faces before Lennon could gather them back. Caruso checked his own device, irritation furrowing his brow for just half a second before he masked it. Chloe caught a glimpse, the words money laundering scheme, accountant betrayal. He slipped the phone away, voice low. I'll deal with you later, Lennon. Miss Wagner, you're coming with me. She hesitated, glancing from one predator to another. Lennon stretched an arm as if to block her, smirking, scared to walk in front of us. Chloe, don't waddle too slow. This time Chloe stood up taller. If I were you, I'd watch who you try to trip. Shock rippled among the onlookers, nobody laughed. Caruso's lips twitched an almost smile. Angel with me, he said, the pet name startling as a bell toll. He guided a wide hand gently to the small of her back. There was nothing mocking in the gesture, only command. They swept past the boys into the shadows of the basement garage, leaving the echo of Lennon's humiliation ringing in the hard, bright corridor. The private car, a lacquer-black Lincoln supplied by Caruso's silent drivers, ate up the rainy, sodium-lit streets. Chloe sat in the back with the dawn pressed against the door handle, hands twisting her skirt. The city flickered by, thunder rolled behind high-rises like a distant warning. Caruso broke the silence. How long has he been doing that to you, Chloe? She hesitated. He's just, no one listens to me anyway. I should have ignored him. He cocked his head, dark hair catching in the dashboard lights. Angel, silence isn't free in my world. You pay for it every time you bite your tongue. The word angel lingered private, as if he'd minted it only for her. She tried a shaky laugh. My mom always said I was too much for the world, so I stuck to the numbers. His thumb brushed a smudge from her wrist, gentle, unhurried. Did those numbers ever keep you safe? She shook her head, words catching. They distracted me, that's all. Caruso's stare became heavier, possessive enough to drive out Lennon's memory. His phone chimed again, urgent, the time stamp screaming. He typed back fast, his fingers a blur. Someone's rifling through our books, Chloe. The family's cleaning house tonight, and I need every set of eyes I can trust. Why me? She meant. Why not someone thinner, tougher, someone who hadn't spent her 20s wilting under sneers? He angled toward her, his cologne coiled dark with a citrus edge. Because you notice what's missing, you arrange chaos, and you don't look away when it matters. The car jostled as they turned, gravel rattling beneath the tires. Before Chloe could answer, the vehicle stopped, Caruso signaled, and the door unlocked with a heavy click. The mortuary's back entrance loomed, wrought iron and forbidding, shielded from the street. He extended a hand, broad, warm, waiting. You're coming inside, Angel. Nobody touches you on my watch. She clasped it, allowed herself to be drawn from one world to the next, fear and all. Inside the underground war room, a low-lit vault below the Caruso mansion, family lieutenants milled around digital screens and curling ledgers. The air pulsed with coffee, terror, and authority. Chloe perched by Caruso's side, watching his lieutenant scramble, a sense of purpose gathered inside her, rooting deep. Domenico, Caruso's closest aide, a thick-set man with eyes hard as glass, snapped, "Boss, we're missing 200 grand in the Rowanor accounts. Audit says flagged transactions. This stinks." Caruso nodded to Chloe. Walk him through it, a test or a trust fall. She turned to Domenico, voice barely above a whisper. Show me the flagged ledgers. He flipped his laptop toward her. Fingers moving with certainty at last, she mapped the discrepancies, numbers became stories, patterns as familiar as old hymns. These withdrawals match two obituaries with no burial record, who signed for them. Domniko's mouth dropped open. Those lines, hell, those are Coach Lenin's clients. The room vibrated with tension. From the hallway, shouts snapped the air. Lenin's voice, angry and desperate, then two gunshots. Chloe froze, muscle memory kicking in, her body moved on instinct. She dropped behind Caruso as Domniko drew. Someone crashed through the door, Coach Lenin, wild-eyed, gun in hand. Where are the files? You think you can sweep this under the rug? He feinted at Chloe, but Caruso intercepted with ruthless grace, seizing Lenin's wrist and slamming him into the desk. There was a flash, a louder retort. Suddenly Caruso staggered. Blood began to soak his shirt. Chloe moved. Shoving Lenin back with a strength born of necessity, she pulled Caruso behind a heavy chair, hands already at his wound, marine training, long buried, ignited. Hold pressure, she barked to Domniko, who obeyed without argument. Through the chaos, Chloe's hands kept moving, improvised bandage, check for exit wound, fingers quick and sure despite the blood. He's going to bleed out unless we clamp it, she said, her voice suddenly steady, filled with orders that cut through the panic. Domniko stared, all written in every line of his rough face. Where'd you learn that? He whispered. Chloe's eyes never left the wound as she worked. Marine combat medic, 2 tour. Caruso was conscious, holding her wrist. Angel, you saved me. Even with pain strangling his words, he made room for her. Just for her, shoulder pressed to her knee as she wove medical tape, her braid brushing his cheek. Somewhere, Lenin tried to run, only to be intercepted by Capo Renzo. He's the rat, Renzo barked, and he's been funneling the laundered money straight to the Solari family. Chloe finished her work, her uniform streaked with blood, and stood. Coach Lenin's not just the insulter, she said for all to hear. He's the informant. All these missing funds, they're his pipeline. In the shocked silence, Caruso let the world see him lay a bloodied palm over her hand, eyes burning with a new, savage pride. My angel saved more than my life tonight. She saved the family. His voice made every capo in the room straighten, every loyalist see her as something more. Lenin, for the first time, looked genuinely afraid. Lenin's fate was sealed before dawn. Caruso's justice arrived in the form of Chicago's white-collar crime unit. The Don's call to a well-placed detective ensured the disgraced trainer's embezzlement and betrayal were broadcast far and wide. Arrested in cuffs, he left the war room with hollow eyes, mumbling denials no one would hear. For the Solari family, doors slammed shut. Chloe's forensics, paired with her medical heroism, made it simple to expose their laundering network. Accounts frozen, partners questioned, 2 traitors swept from the syndicate in an act of quiet violence that carried Caruso's signature. In the morning's hush, the Caruso mansion stood silent, cleansed of shadow. Chloe stood at the top of the grand staircase, dress still stained at the cuff, hair tamed into its habitual braid. The Don waited for her on the balcony, light peeling the night from the lake below. He held his signet ring out, age-blackened silver inscribed with the family crest. Come here, Angel. His words were soft, potent as any vow. She joined him, breath hitching as his hand slipped the ring onto her finger. In the new morning, every capo and cousin looking on, Don Caruso introduced her, not the invisible bookkeeper, not the heavyweight shadow, simply, the woman who sees through lies and stands with us now, my equal, my queen. A tremor of pride and possibility stood her straight. She looked down at the city spread beneath their feet and spoke, voice clear as the light rising over Chicago. I'm done letting anyone write my story. This time I hold the pen. Did you enjoy seeing the boss meet his match? Smash that like button right now. Drop a comment with your favorite moment. Subscribe for more dark romance with strong heroines who don't apologize for taking up space. For a moment, silence lingered, broken only by the chime of distant cathedral bells and the far purr of traffic along Lake Shore Drive. Chloe stood still, the sterling weight of the signet ring warming her skin, her vision swimming between tears and sunlight. Not a single mocking grin, not a cutting aside, just the odd hush of 100 men and women whose futures she had rewritten. Caruso studied her face, unreadable and yet, for her, transparent as a half-filled glass. He reached for her carefully this time, mindful of the scabbing wound under his collarbone. His hand rested on her shoulder, grounding her. "You saved me, Angel, not just tonight." His words had a hush like prayer. "You see things I missed, you never flinch." She swallowed, finding his gaze. "Neither did you." He smiled, a real, weary smile, shy as dawn and just as invincible. "Hell of a thing. I've run this city 30 years, never let anyone get that close." His finger brushed the napkin she'd stashed in her pocket, now ugly with blood and ink. He took it gently, smoothing it out on the balcony rail. "Was all this fate?" he asked, voice low. Chloe felt the watching eyes of the family at her back, the hard sun catching the oil in her hair and the pools beneath her eyes. The shame and fear she'd worn like armor dissolving. "No," she said with absolute clarity. "It was choice over and over again." For the first time, she let herself lean into his side and rest her head on his broad shoulder. From below, Domenico whistled, and laughter, genuine this time, broke the spell. The Don squeezed her hand just once. "Breakfast," he murmured. She grinned up at him, daring for once to meet his eyes in full. "But I'm not making the coffee, you'll never survive it." He laughed, a rich, exhausted bark that sent crows shrieking from the eaves. "We'll order in, come down with me." As they moved, Domenico approached, hat crushed in one hand, expression somewhere between reverence and sheepish pride. "Ma'am," he said, tripping over the word, "never seen anybody patch a boss up like that before." Chloe demurred, voice still carrying the crisp steel of command. "Don't ever call me ma'am again, Dom, just Chloe." He saluted, genuinely, as if she were still in camouflage utilities, and hurried off. The relief in the family was palpable. Chloe caught snatches of whispered gratitude, mutters about the angel who doesn't take shit, and the numbers Maria now. Caruso steered her toward the vast kitchen, wood and marble shining under high old windows. Daniela, the kitchen matron who'd once glowered at Chloe's clumsy footsteps, was now bustling with trays of steaming eggs, salt bread, and herbed prosciutto. Daniela set down a tray and patted Chloe's hand with flowery, devout affection. "We don't let families skip meals anymore," she said. No laughter, just the pure hospitality of someone relieved to have hope to anchor to again. Caruso pulled out a chair. Chloe sat, the navy blue velvet cool under her hands, and reached for toast with steadier fingers than any morning prior. He poured her coffee, strong, bitter, exactly to her taste, and pushed the mug across. "So, Angel," he said, more softly than before, "what do you make of our next move?" Chloe sipped, swapping her braid to the other shoulder. "Clean house, audit every account Lennon touched. Renzo should run the next quarterly while the dust settles. And," she looked straight at Domenico, who had lingered in the doorway, "nobody in payroll or accounting answers to one man alone. We compartmentalize access. If we're going legit in 3 years, that's how we start." Domenico grinned, teeth white against his olive skin. "See, boss, I told you she was born for this." Caruso lifted his cup, acknowledging both her and Domenico with a tilt of his wrist. To Chloe Wagner, queen and commander of the books, maybe commander of more. Chloe's cheeks burned, but she inclined her head. A month ago, the words would have flayed her. Now they stitched her together. Breakfast was laughter, stories of the night's adrenaline-fueled scramble, and finally, one moment that caught Chloe unprepared. Daniela delivered a velvet box. Inside, nestled on blue silk, a new badge, the kind worn on the inside pocket of any Caruso lieutenant, but this one wreathed with the silver filigree of a phoenix. "For you, Miss Wagner," Daniela said, "you changed the story." Caruso's eyes gleamed with a suppressed emotion as Chloe pinned it to her lapel. Symbol or shield, for once she felt worthy of its promise. "Tutor, huh?" Caruso said, watching her with a new, amused admiration. She shrugged, then squared up, old instinct, a ghostly parade rest. "Wasn't always a numbers girl." "Never just a numbers girl with you," he said softly. A moment's silence then, morning sunlight, the hum of family restored. Chloe felt the tight corners of her heart loosen. She belonged, And not by shrinking, not by apologizing or earning her place with sweat or starvation, by standing time and again when the ledger demanded it. She finished her meal with an appetite that surprised her. Caruso watched her eat, a pleased pride in his gaze, and didn't once rush her or reach for her plate. Afterward he stood, "Walk with me, Chloe, just us." She followed, the house bustling with quieter, repaired energy behind them, and together they stepped out into the sleepy garden, dew glittering on hostas and wild Italian violets. The lake was burnished gold in the sunrise. Caruso marched slower than his usual booming stride, hand braced at his bandaged side. Chloe slowed, matching step, careful not to pity. He paused at the edge of a granite fountain, water chuckling. "Why'd you protect me?" he said, and it wasn't boasting, just true curiosity. "You could have run. Lennon had the gun." Chloe's answer surprised even herself. "Hard to explain. I wasn't saving you, not just you, not really. I was tired of being the person people expected me to be, afraid, small, easy to push at the margins. You gave me a chance, so I took it. It turned out the risk was the safest thing I ever did." He chuckled, then sobered. "You know, I was about to push you out, not because you weren't good, because I didn't think hell could spare any miracles." "You don't get to decide when you're out of miracles," she said. He grinned, brushing a curl from her cheek. "You're mine now, Chloe Wagner, queen, angel, or whirlwind, whatever you want." She took his hand, big, battered, alive, and let him pull her close. "And you're mine, boss." They stood like that, breathing as one, while the city's noise crept up from below, a tide never faltering. For the first time, Chloe didn't shrink. Instead, she rose with it. By noon, the calls had started. Allies congratulating, enemies probing, gossip already predicting that the Caruso family had just become bold enough to change with the times. Chloe fielded her first, as a named partner. "Hello, this is Chloe Wagner," she said, voice clear over the encrypted line. A woman's voice replied, sly and venomous. "So you're the girl who took down Lennon and the Solari pipeline. You planning to do the same to the rest of us?" "Only if you're stealing from us," Chloe answered flatly, her tone ringing with cold steel. A pause, then grudging respect. "You're not what we expected." Chloe pressed her thumb against the silver ring, tracing the crest. "That's the thing about underdogs. You never see them coming right up until the day you realize all the rules changed while you were watching someone else." She hung up, heart pounding not with fear but with pride. Caruso came in, reading her expression with a look both wary and delighting in her nerve. Was that Solari's niece? Chloe nodded, reminded her the books are clean now, and always will be. He grinned, no trace of the old loneliness in his eyes. "Remind me to make you a consigliere commission." She tapped her new badge. "No need, I already run the numbers." He laughed, she joined him. The day was theirs. That night, the Caruso mansion threw open its doors for the first time since the attack. The ballroom gleamed with glass and laughter and scarlet silk. Capos mingled with city politicians, lieutenants with their wives and sons, servers gliding past with flutes of crystal-pale Prosecco. Chloe entered at Caruso's side, head held high. For once, she saw no mocking in the glances, only curiosity and occasional awe. Renzo approached, holding out a hand. "Congratulations, Chloe. Lennon was a snake. You crushed his head in front of the whole family. That's a story we'll be telling our daughters." She shook with honest camaraderie, only smiling now when it felt true. "Tell your daughters to count the silverware and watch for borrowed names on the payroll." Renzo whistled. "She's funny, too." The music swelled. As Caruso led Chloe into a gentle, slow dance, he whispered, "I'd have named you queen even if you hadn't patched me up. But damn, you're a hell of a medic." Her fingers curled into his. "And you're a hell of a student. Sit still next time, maybe." He held her close. "No more hiding. Not you, not ever. You're my partner, the family's future." Chloe didn't answer with words. She didn't need to. All around them, the city's darkest stories began to re-script themselves, one ledger's careful truth at a time. Somewhere during the party, Chloe found herself alone on the balcony, Chicago's wind cool against the flush in her cheeks. She stared down at the lights, a spiderweb of possible futures. A year ago, she'd have said none of them belonged to her. Shoes clicked behind her, Daniela with a glass of limoncello. "You changed the house, Chloe," the older woman said quietly. "You remind me of Caruso's mother, not because you fight, but because you see what's worth saving." Chloe's lips parted in surprise. "Thank you, Daniela." The woman set the glass next to her, then closed Chloe's free hand around the badge pinned at her breast. "They needed someone who doesn't shrink, merci." And then she left, leaving Chloe alone in air shimmering with new possibility. Chloe stood silent for a long time, letting the wind braid her hair around her shoulders, feeling the ring's heavy promise and the badge's sharp point. She watched the skyline, the city sprawling in blue and gold, and finally let her own story unfold, as loud and as brave as she could dream. Inside, Caruso called for her, no command now, just invitation. She turned, smiled, and walked, not shrunk or shamed, but tall and unhurried, into the life she'd never dared to want. For the first time in forever, the world made room. And Chloe, queen of the numbers and savior of the ledger, took it, one steady, glorious breath at a time.